Welcome to another episode of Knox Narratives. Since 1999, the Tennessee Theatre has been the official theater of the state of Tennessee. I am joined by Becky Hancock, who's going to tell us all about the Tennessee Theatre.
Well, welcome, Mayor. It's great to have you on our beautiful stage. The Tennessee Theatre was built in 1928, so over 92 years ago. Built as a movie theater primarily, but it was built with a stage. But movies were all the rage in the 1920s. The first film was The Fleet's Inn, starring Clara Bow. She was the it girl of the time, a very big superstar. At first it cost 60 cents for an evening show and 40 cents for a matinee, but during the Depression they dropped the price to 25 cents. And it was a way for people to come in and forget about their troubles. These beautiful theaters were designed to look like palaces and to really take the ordinary person off the street and into their own personal royal place. Lots of ups and downs, but the theater did really well through the Depression, through the war years, and then even after the war it became really more of a movie theater and less of a movie theater stage show place. Some movie premieres in the 50s and 60s. Another important part of the 60s, this theater was segregated when it was opened in 1928. So in 1963, the theater was desegregated after peaceful protests by Knoxville College students. But many great entertainers over the years, Glenn Miller, Fanny Brice, Tom Mix, the silent film star, Johnny Cash. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But the theater really struggled in the 1970s when downtowns across the country, but downtown Knoxville was a lot quieter than it is now. And this was just a really big space to operate with a single movie screen, and it was just really hard economically to make it work. So in 1981, a local businessman named James Dick purchased this theater. He loved the theater and he knew it was important to maintain it and to preserve it. Operated the theater for about 15 years, never made a dime. But ultimately he realized this needs to be transferred to a nonprofit ownership where fundraising can happen and donations can help support the activity of this building. And so in 1996 he helped form the Historic Tennessee Theatre Foundation. That group of leaders raised over $25 million to fully renovate and restore the theater. So everything in the beautiful auditorium and lobbies was restored back to its original appearance, and then everything behind the curtain, the stage and the backstage facilities, were brought up to modern standards. The problem was the original 1928 stage house was just too small. It was really shallow, built for a movie screen. So that 2005 renovation fixed that problem. We actually built a new stage house that's twice as deep, and it actually hangs over State Street. Next time you drive down State Street, you'll see the theater hulking above the street. But that stage expansion also allows the symphony to fully realize their programming here, the opera. So we are our critical partner in our local performing arts organization.
Becky, there's lots of really cool things about the Tennessee Theatre, but for me, this is the crown jewel. Your Wurlitzer, which is original to the theater and one of the few Wurlitzers in the world that is original to the theater.
We are so lucky to have this instrument. It was built with the theater back in 1928. And what's really interesting about it, you can see from all the keys and all the different buttons, it was meant to recreate an orchestra. So you can do all different sounds. You can do violin, clarinet, trumpet.
Yeah, and actually it's labeled with different things like tuba and all the different pieces of the orchestra, and yeah.
So all those sounds were meant to accompany a silent film. So the organist would sit at the console, watch the movie on the screen, and make up a score as they went along. So if a fire truck went down the road, they would play a little fire truck. By the time the Tennessee Theatre opened, films were no longer silent. They had sound. So this big, beautiful instrument didn't have a job. Luckily, they kept the instrument and they used it as a pre-show entertainment. So it was the warm-up act for the big screen movie, and we still do that today. We still play the organ before every movie, and we feature the organ every month on Mighty Musical Monday, a free concert that we've done since 2001. But we really are very proud of this instrument and very, very grateful to have it in this building.
There are lots of wonderful venues around the country. What sets the Tennessee Theatre apart that if someone comes here, they'd be like, wow, that's really cool and I don't see it anyplace else?
You know, what's great about these old historic theaters is that each one of them is different. It's like a fingerprint. You know, I think one thing about this theater, the shape of it is very unique. The beautiful domed ceiling. It's a little bit elliptical. It's wider than it is deep. It's a very intimate performance space.
Of course, the acoustics are wonderful, and just how ornate everything is and the detail is mind-boggling.
It is, and we spend a lot of money to maintain this beautiful theater, polishing the brass rails, to dusting up in the high areas, to making sure that our HVAC system works properly, all the boring stuff, but that's really important to maintain a facility.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. An iconic feature of downtown Knoxville is the Tennessee Theatre sign. It has an interesting history of its own.
Yeah, it does, and we're so proud to have that be an icon of our community. But yes, it was put up in 1928, the big vertical sign and the marquee. In the 1950s, they removed that big vertical sign and probably sent it to the scrapyard. It was gone forever, we thought. But in the 2005 renovation, we decided we needed to have that sign back. It's an exact replica of the original sign, but we have some modern technology that allows us to be a little bit more energy efficient. So all the bulbs are LED, and even those message boards on the marquee are all LED screens.
Can you talk about who your clientele is, where they come from, and what the economic impact is to the greater Knoxville area?
We, in a normal year, we welcome about 200,000 people through the doors. Most of our customers are local, but different programs bring different audiences. Our Broadway audience is about 45% outside of Knox County. So you have people coming in, whether it's just from one county over, or maybe they're coming in from Kentucky or North Carolina or North Georgia, coming here to our community to spend dollars. We also create local jobs, both in terms of the staff and the contracted labor that we use here in the building, but also buying from local vendors or hiring electricians. So we are an economic engine of downtown and our entire community, Knox County.
Unfortunately, organizations like yours were some of the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you tell us what you did to be flexible?
Yeah, the show must go on, but it certainly has not gone on in the way that we're used to in the last year. Our last performance was March 13th of 2020. We canceled several dozen events. We refunded about $750,000 in tickets. Our revenues dropped by 95% compared to our normal operating year. How we've survived, we made a lot of difficult decisions. We furloughed and then laid off a few staff. The remaining staff took pay cuts. We sought out grants, we sought out donations from the public, and we've spent some savings. But with the building sitting empty, it just seems a waste to not figure out a way to use the building in ways that we don't normally use it. So we have done things like offering small wedding ceremonies or elopement ceremonies. So people use this beautiful backdrop for their special day. We've had private photography sessions, all socially distanced, all safe. Just a couple of ways for us to earn revenue and to keep the theater in the public's mind while we're not able to present that great entertainment.
We do see acts coming in on the horizon, but it's still a little ways away getting there. What can people do to support the Tennessee Theatre?
Let me first just say, Mayor, that we are so excited to see normal activity coming back. Vaccinations are going up, and the artists are thinking about getting back on the road again. We're looking at returning to normal operations in terms of full house concerts and events, probably in the fourth quarter of this year. There's two things that people can do. They can support us with a donation at TennesseeTheatre.com/support. And then the other thing is that once it's safe to gather back together again, buy tickets, support the arts. We will need you to come back. We already have a few shows on sale for October, and we're going to be announcing a few more. Come out and buy those tickets.
I bet you didn't know this about me, Becky, but I'm actually a world-class pianist. Would you mind if I tried my hand?
Maestro, please.
Thank you. Okay, you ready? Becky, thank you so much for your time. I highly encourage people to get out and get to the Tennessee Theatre. It's an experience that you're not going to forget.
Thank you, Mayor. Great to have you today.